LPA receiver problems. Paragraph 1. Now I like obviously to look at things from everybody's perspective, and in honesty, there are problems in any matter which affect all parties. Now this topic to some people will probably relate to their problems or the problems that landlords, mortgagees have with mortgagors. So let's cut this topic down into two parts. So the first part will be problems that mortgagors, debtors, people who are in debt to the bank face in matters of LPA receivers. Paragraph 2. One of the primer problems faced by individual mortgagors is that once the LPA receiver is appointed, it becomes very difficult to negotiate or take control back of their asset. Now, in order to understand this, let's go through what happens when an LPA receiver is appointed. Paragraph 3. When an LPA receiver is appointed, problems arise. The first problem being that the mortgagor will have defaulted or breached the terms and conditions of the mortgage loan. So in all terms and conditions, whether the property is a buy-to-let or whether the property is a residential mortgage, the clause relating to the LPA Receiver Act, and in specific the appointment of the LPA receiver, is enshrined. Yes, you will be surprised to see that the clause relating to the LPA receiver is also found in residential assets. Now, what does it relate to? Well, basically it relates to the bank having the right to take control of their property back in any case where a mortgagor is in default of any of the major terms and conditions of their mortgage. And because we're discussing the matters leading up to appointment, the common defaults are listed under. So A, arrears, so missing mortgage payments, is normally regarded as one common default. B, a difference in the loan to value clause, LTV clause, which means that once the property was purchased, the mortgage loan was set at a certain loan to the value of the property ratio, normally 75%. In an example, would mean if a client had purchased a property worth 100,000 in the open market, that the bank will have lent to the borrower. So the bank, being the mortgagee, will have lent to the borrower, being the mortgagor, £75,000 of that value. Herein that the remainder £25,000 will have been put in as a deposit by the mortgagor. Point C. Once a mortgage property has not been upkept in a particular state of repair, so that the mortgagee, the lender bank, normally views this with a mind of risk. So taking the same example, if the loan to value is 75%, being that the mortgagee will have paid £75,000 towards the purchase of the asset, and £25,000 will have been the deposit of the mortgagor in the purchase of the asset. If the value of the asset decreases because of dilapidation and not upkeeping its state of repair, then it's quite obvious that the market value of that property, the loan to value, will go up and the market value will come down. Very simple explanation or example being, the property that was worth 100,000 has now become worth 90,000. So therefore the loan to value ratio that the bank has applied has gone up, and hence this also is a double position where the loan to value needs to be re-established. So at £90,000 the bank will want the borrower, the mortgagor, to put some more money in to bring their lending down to the 75% ratio, therefore keeping both clauses intact and not having looked after the property itself, being a breach or a default of the clause, wanting the borrower, the mortgagor, to spend money on the asset to bring the value up, is another way of them remedying that clause. But these are the three major reasons that the bank will exercise its right to apply for the appointment of an LPA receiver. The slightly more subtle reasons that appear in the terms and condition could be, and do not limit the bank from appointing an LPA receiver, are A, that the property is not being used as the mortgage states. This commonly could be that there could be clauses in the terms and condition that restrict the use of the property in a certain way, or point B, that the property has not been insured properly as should be required by the terms and condition and law. These two are the slightly more subtler clauses, and obviously for the lender to ascertain this is normally once matters have become strained between the mortgagor and the mortgagee. But in normal circumstances, the mortgagee, lender bank, would not be aware that the property is being misused unless they instructed an inspection, and they may not know about the insurance or other legal requirements not being satisfied unless matters came to a head where the mortgagee had directly asked for the mortgagor to present these documents. So these are generally all the varying conditions under which the LPA receiver is appointed. So we now go on to what happens in appointment. Well, generally the bank gives notice to the mortgagor that because of a clause or a multiple breach of clauses, they will be giving the mortgagor a notice period of up to 14 days to settle the mortgage debt. Failing where, they will appoint an LPA receiver. The appointment of an LPA receiver is merely by exercising their right under the mortgage, that is the right of the mortgagee, the lender bank, and they issue a deed of appointment that is presented in the name of the LPA receiver appointed, and then this deed of appointment is then shown to the mortgagor so that the mortgagor is made aware that the controls of the asset has now been transferred over to the LPA receiver. Keeping in line with the topic LPA receiver problems, what now does the mortgagor or the debtor face on appointment? And I will enumerate them first, and then I will discuss them in detail for the purpose of this blog.